Do you think, let's switch to equities, the other side of the street. Do you think the equities losing streak has come to an end or it hasn't?
No, really, for the equities market, there always be time of when you have ups and downs.
Yeah,
And
but
that
this
is
is looking
where
like
there's
one day up,
opportunity.
one day down. And that looks like a very crazy hill inverse for me, just this way, without really giving me a direction. Where is this equity market looking like? Because I pushed you out there this morning on Twitter, and I was saying I was going to ask you live on television whether we have halt the losing streak on the NSE.
Well, I won't say we're totally out that, but I would also expect that but the results, Q1 2018 results, will also determine the direction that we'll see some of these stocks trade. We expect that from end of this week to next week, because for the unaudited account, you have 30-day window. Well, most of them will turn in their results, and that would help shape investors' expectation in terms of the direction they should be looking at. But you also look at, for most of these stocks, there's been some form of correction in the past 2 to 3 weeks. When you look at GT, that's traded as high as 55 naira, currently at 42. That's ex-div because of dividend pay. Most of them have been adjusted for dividend. That still presents opportunities, because when you also look at their result in terms of EPS level, you look at in terms of price to book and compare them in terms of multiples to peers, they're still trading at relatively discount to emerging markets multiples. So that is what, especially for foreign investors, will be looking at in terms of the multiples. They will be looking at that. But results, our scorecards is very key and would shape direction.
Now we're talking about earnings. We've had quite a few outstanding that hadn't come in. One is not yet in. We have a few other companies. Are investors right now done with full year 2017, albeit a few delayed filings that has been reported? Or are they looking more about first quarter 2018 to be a major determinant of what they do in second and what they will likely do in third quarter?
I think most of the investors would, when you look at some of the stocks that control in terms of market activity, most of them have published their results. And when you look at that, what they'll be looking forward to is the Q1 2018 results in terms of their performance, though it's unaudited, so in terms of reliance may not be as significant as audited accounts. But when it gives like a signal into the new year, what the company will be doing and what it has in terms of its strategy. Management will also be discussing that with analysts for us to understand their outlook for the year.
If we cross back to and juggle this a little bit back to fixed income, we are expecting an NTB today.
Yes, a primary market auction.
Yes. At what rate do you think the regulator, the central bank, will be doing this 91-day, 182-day, and 364-day bills?
I feel starting with the 364 bill, I feel the stop rate may close below 13%. Also, looking at the 182-day bill may close around below 12.5%, while the 91-day bill may close around 11.5, 11% levels.
How soon do you think the NTB will come in at a single digit? Just look at the calendar. We're on April, today's April 18th. Look at it. Between now and June?
No, I doubt. For the 90-day, below 90-day, we're already seeing single-digit rates on the floor for May bills.
For secondary?
Secondary market traded around 8.5, 8% yesterday. Discount rates, and but we expect for the medium to long term, going into the single digits, it becomes very unattractive
at the primary market.
At the primary market,
yes.
It becomes unattractive for investors. Also, CBN will also be guiding against having excess liquidity and challenging them into areas that may trigger more pressure for the CBN. So. On one hand, you also have to guide in terms of the rates must not be totally unattractive. If not, most investors abandon the fixed income market. Even though we know governments are not willing to borrow more. They are going more. They are doing more of external borrowings, but they also need to still the balance. They still need, once the budget is passed, you also need to support. You also need to raise capital to fund that deficit.
This less borrowing by the Buhari's administration is the first time that I could remember on Market Street that there's a deliberate policy by the government to borrow less locally.
Yes, I think it's commendable. It's really the first time that you can see that the government is showing that I really don't need your money for now. And they're also trying to restructure, bringing down the cost of borrowing. Because when you look at it, we earn a lot of our earnings is in dollars. So even if they borrow in dollars, they can just do some form of netting and use dollar proceeds earnings from their from oil also to service those loans or to pay down on those loans. So and there will be little restriction, crowding out effect on the private sector by collecting money from private sector and using it for expenses. It's really
smart financial engineering. That's what you do, because you have oil inflows steady at 70, 72. So it looks like a good time to quickly cut back on
domestic borrowings
and rely more on the FX, which is when you do the currency translation, it makes your account looks much better rather than borrowing locally.
I think that's commendable, and it should be
sustained. Maybe that's just what they are doing. But we'll just keep an eye on the government. Next week is the April DMO, April auction. What's the outlook on that? Do you think we've seen this steady decrease also in the figure that the debt office is coming up with on a month-on-month basis? We're heading towards something like 100, 200 billion per auction.
Per auction. Yes. Still, the second quarter calendar came out yesterday, and there will be an auction next week. But you also see the DMO have also sustained in terms of the maturities between the 3-year, 5-year, and 10-year. We've not seen in the recent time the 20-year bill instrument or paper that we normally see. And when you look at in terms of the total offer between I think in total is less than 100 billion. But that also signals that there will be some form of moderation in terms of the bullish activity we witness within the bonds market, because they will also want to keep funds aside to buy fresh issue from the DMO.
Nice conversation with you.
Thank you.
Ayode Jiebo, the Chief Executive Officer at Afrinvest Securities, one of the licensed investment securities and trading firm by the SEC and also registered by the Nigerian Stock Exchange. We'll take a break, ladies and gentlemen. Let's come back and give you a snippet of some of those stories coming through from the World Bank IMF annual spring meetings are now taking place, entering its third day in Washington, D.C.